Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 5, Episode 2 of the Drone to 1K podcast. I am your host, David Young. Thanks so much for tuning in. Obviously, we have started Season 5 since this is the second episode. Many people have been asking when we were going to come out with another season, and here we are. So we have already recorded most of the episodes for this season. We have a few to wrap up, but there will be 10 episodes, just like in previous seasons. And I like this season because we have a good diversity of backgrounds in the speakers. We have some people that have engineering backgrounds, some people that do FPV, some people that are in mapping, some real estate, some agriculture, a good mixture to learn from, to get different perspectives, and to hopefully get some new ideas. If you're thinking about starting a drone business, or you have one, or you just like drones in general and you want to see what's out there, what the opportunities are. That's what this podcast can provide. If you're not familiar with the Drone to 1K podcast, we essentially have a threshold. You have to be making at least $1,000 a month consistently with your drone business to be eligible to come on. And we've had people on the podcast that are making several $100,000 per year, and some people that are just over the threshold. So we try to give you a good wide range of income levels, experience levels, industries, so you can see all the different ways to monetize drone use, whether it's a side hustle, full-time income, so you know what your options are and what it might take for you to get there if that's something that you aspire to. I know a lot of people listen to this podcast and are like, David, it's my goal to one day get to $1,000 a month so I can be on the podcast. So I really hope you do get there, and you can message me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com, and I can get you on here. Before we dive in, let me just tell you briefly. Today, we have a great guest, Eric Hellinger. He is an FPV pilot. He does like indoor FPV first-person view, like drone tours. Really, really cool. If you've ever seen the videos where the drone's like flying through windows and underneath the couch and in all these little tight, small spaces, and you're wondering how in the world did they ever get that video shot? Eric is the guy who's out there doing those shots, and he brings a really cool episode today, giving you his whole background and how he got into that and how he's doing now. So we'll jump into that, and I'm very excited for it. But I wanted to briefly tell you something I'm really excited about that we have just launched. If you listened to the last episode, you heard Dusty Jolly. He's out in Arkansas, and he's a drone pilot. He does some FPV stuff, some mapping stuff, and some other kind of general media production work. He is now our new community manager at our drone launch community, which we're calling Drone Launch Connect. I've been really excited. We've been trying to launch this for about a year, or had this idea for a little over a year to launch this. We've been trying to find the right person, figure out what should go in it, how it should work, and hammer out all the details. But we finally launched it. If you're interested in checking that out, I'm just real quick going to tell you it's dronelaunchconnect.com. That'll take you to a page where you can check it out. You can join for a whole month for just $1. There is stuff in there from discounts on your drones. You can get like 7% off basically of any major drone brand for the most part, and then 10% off almost any drone accessories. So we have that process laid out in there. We're going to have experts come on. So a lot of the podcast guests that you're hearing, you're going to be able to talk to them in the community. A lot of them are just going to be in the community as members, but we're also going to bring them on for like special Q&A sessions where we can bring you on live on the call to ask them questions one-on-one, or if you'd rather just type it out, we can ask it. It just gives you some more personal and direct access to experts that we'll find. We've got drone attorneys lined up, insurance people lined up, the different podcast guests lined up. So you got a lot of industry expertise and different levels of, some are 6-figure drone business owners. Now we've got some 7-figure drone business owners in there. So it just gives you a lot of resources to be able to access these experts. Plus, you can just network and meet people in the community. We're going to have hangouts, contests. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about just being a part of it. I'm kind of glad that I don't have to manage it full time because I just want to be a participant. But Dusty is going to be our community manager in there. So if you want to check that out, dronelaunchconnect.com. It's $1 to start. For this week, the founding member rate is $19 a month. Then after that, I think it's going to go up to $29 a month. But you should be able to get your first month for just $1. If for some reason you can't find that, email support@dronelaunchacademy.com. Just tell them you listened to the podcast, episode 2, season 5. And that David said you could get it for $1 for the first month, and they'll make that happen. All right, so I just wanted to get that out of the way just because I was really excited about it, and I know a lot of people that are on this podcast or listening to this podcast would be interested in checking that out. Like always, if you want a free t-shirt, you can leave us a review, screenshot your review of the podcast, email it to us, david@dronelaunchacademy.com, and Jorge, Jorge, @dronelaunchacademy.com, and we'll get you a shirt. Last thing, more stuff for you, really. If you want some drone launch swag, we have the 2 Truths and a Lie game. So if you go click the link either in the email or around this video, if you're watching on YouTube, you answer one question about this podcast after you listen to it, and you can win some free swag or a free course, just a way to reward our listeners for listening to it within the first week it comes out, and just kind of give you some cool stuff. So check that out if you want. All right, sorry, it was a longer intro than normal today. Very excited to introduce Eric. Let's get into the chat. All right, everyone, I have with me on the podcast today Eric Hellinger of Vivid Flight Media. Eric, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are my very first interview for season 5 of the Drone to 1K podcast. So I'm super pumped to be back in the saddle here again, talking to more drone pilots. So congrats on being the very first of season 5.
Awesome.
And Eric knows how the spiel goes. He's listened to the podcast before. I always like to start off by getting people's background and story. Like, hey, how did you first get into drones? Like, when did you first touch a drone? When did you first start kind of dabbling in drones? So why don't you walk us through that a little bit?
So I started dabbling in drones January of 2021. So it's been a little bit over a year for me. So
Okay, so pretty recent.
It hasn't been that long. I've known about them
Sure.
prior, but I didn't really consider it as a career until then. Actually, one of the first things that I stumbled upon was Alex Harris's videos, which led me to Drone Launch, which led me to the podcast. So that was kind of a great intro
Awesome.
to everything, as a beginner,
Yeah, that's great. And so you were just peeking around, thinking about drones, started Googling stuff on YouTube. What were you doing at the time where you were like, I need to get into drones?
Well, I've been in sales jobs, and I was at the time, for all of pretty much the second half of 2020, I was kind of looking for like a different route, something that I can do, something that's more enjoyable, things like that. And basically, I saw, like some of the capabilities with drones, and initially I was, very interested in doing the Mavic and Phantom, and doing real estate and mapping and things like that. I saw a lot of practical use for that, and like thermal imaging, all kinds of different applications. Like, I'm sure everybody knows, like there's like law enforcement and all kinds of stuff like that you can use. So I knew that there was a market for it, and I also knew that I could do it well. So basically, I just started diving into that and learning everything I could, just basically being a sponge for every single day, all day long. Just watching YouTube videos, watching Alex Harris's videos. I took the aerial video A to Z course,
Awesome.
which was extremely helpful because I don't have a film background or anything like that. So I was pretty much square one, and so that helped me kind of understand like settings and things like that, like the basic stuff that you need to get going, to get you out there in the field.
Yeah.
So that was great. And I also took some other courses as well, for editing and things like that. And then first drone I picked up was the Mavic 2 Pro. I was going back and forth between that and the Phantom 4, and they're both great. I like things about both of them. Yeah, the Phantom 4 has great color, but the portability of the Mavic 2 made me go with that one. So
yeah,
that's what I started. That's kind of how it all began.
Okay, awesome. And then what was your original, you said you thought about, real estate, mapping, all these different things. When you were getting into this and you bought a drone, did you have like a goal starting off like, all right, I'm going to try to start a business and make X amount of dollars, or you're just going to do it for fun at first? What was kind of your plan?
Well, my plan was to absolutely start a business and make money as soon as possible. That was my goal.
Were you trying to get out of, the sales stuff you were doing basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I wanted to, be an entrepreneur, be my own boss kind of deal. And turns out it was a good decision.
Awesome. So real quick, let's do this. How about, so we got the very beginning. Why don't we fast forward to the very end? You kind of tell us about like how things have been going lately, and then we'll fill in the middle for the rest of the interview. So give us a little like snapshot. If you were to meet me randomly in public and I was like, oh, Eric, cool. What do you do? Like, tell me about your business.
Okay. Well, things are going great. I couldn't be more thrilled with how much progress I've made in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I fly FPV drones for a living. I create amazing dynamic content, and everybody seems to enjoy and is very, very happy with the work that I do. So um, that's pretty much in a nutshell. Like like I said, I started with the Mavic stuff, and I still
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's about 10% of my income now, and ninety
Mm-hmm.
percent is just FPV.
Gotcha. All
Um,
FPV. So are
yeah.
you what's a common like FPV job for you if someone's wondering? I mean, we'll link up to all your stuff so people can check it out, like some of your social profiles and some of your videos and stuff. But just if someone's just listening on audio right now and they're not really familiar with FPV is first person view. So it's like when you're looking,
Mhm.
like all the cool, like think about a racing drone and stuff or drones that fit through small spaces. But like
Yeah.
what would be a job someone would call you for?
Well, it's a difficult question because I've found myself in so many different places. I found myself in a preschool, in a at music festivals, at restaurants, all different types of stuff. But I think if I had to pick one, I would say mostly it's for indoor tours of
Mm-hmm.
businesses, all different types of businesses. It's not specific, which is very good for me because it's not specific to any one niche or genre of business. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, like last month, I did a fly through type job at a testing laboratory, a metallurgical testing laboratory where they test metals, and they wanted
Yeah.
something that they could market to uh, potential future employees. They could use it at trade shows and things like that. Just something really attention grabbing for their
Yeah.
business. So
Yeah.
I think the genre of work being the fly through, the indoor stuff is
Mhm,
probably what I do most, but it's not
mhm.
specific to any one style of business, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, but it's a really and again, if you're listening to this and you don't know exactly what we're talking about, if you've ever seen, like a drone that's like flying and it's like comes super close to objects and like they'll like fly through a car window as they're going through a door and then they'll like circle around some other thing that looks like you don't know how they're not hitting it, but they're like sneaking through little spots. Those are usually really good FPV pilots doing those jobs. So if you're listening, like, what is that? You can look it up.
It's very dynamic. Yeah, I could actually put one up on the screen if you want it for the people that do have the video.
Sure. Yeah, go for it. That's a good idea if you're watching on YouTube and stuff.
So this is typically what I use a lot for the indoor stuff. It has
Hmm.
prop guards on it, which
Hmm.
make it very safe for flying around people, close to expensive things, stuff like that.
Is
Uh,
that a question you get from clients? Like, are you going to crash into my stuff?
yeah, yeah, they're definitely interested in that, and a lot of people don't know that this is still relatively a new thing. So they don't even know
Mm,
that this. Most people don't know it's possible to do some of these things. So like
yeah.
I have to like show them like this is what's possible, and then they're like, "Oh, I want that. That's amazing." So
Yeah.
it's
You're educating them, which I feel like is half the battle in a lot of the drone industry stuff, right? People are not even aware of half the stuff that can be done.
yeah, and that's with every angle of the drone industry.
Yeah.
Even with outdoor real estate stuff and mapping and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still pretty new.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well, I don't want to we'll come back to it. I don't want to give too much of it away, but I at least wanted people to get a picture of where you are now and then
Yeah.
where we're heading. So, all right. So let's rewind back a little bit. So
Okay.
you bought a Mavic 2 Pro. You thought maybe I'll dabble in some real estate. This
Hmm.
was 2021. So just for people who have a reference, right now we're recording this. It's February 2022. So this
Yeah.
was like just over a year ago. You got your first Mavic 2 Pro. Like, what was your strategy on getting started?
Well, first and foremost, I did a lot of practicing on my own. I got the Mavic probably I think it was first week of February, so there was snow on the ground. I'm from
Hmm.
Cleveland, so
Okay.
I was flying it in the cold, and basically I was just kind of following the steps that I learned in some of the courses. Put together a reel, try to make a town reel, that kind of deal,
Hmm.
and and then share it on YouTube and social media and stuff like that, and see if people are interested in it, and maybe if they want to license the footage. So I was just kind of getting as much footage as possible locally in hot spots around town. And also that serving two purposes: one, because potentially licensing footage, and two, so I have something in a portfolio so that I could show to potential clients that I pitch later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so once I got that built up and I had a decent portfolio, I first started out with going into real estate and contacting real estate agents. I've always been really good at networking and kind of cold calling, things like that. I did a fair amount of in-person cold calling around town to real estate companies, things like that.
What does
And
in-person cold calling look like? You just walking up, knocking on doors?
yeah, yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I had sales experience. So pretty used to that. So I'm no
So that
stranger to
didn't, so
that.
that didn't bother you just walking up and start just, walking in
No, no,
places?
no shame, and then leave a business card, that kind of deal. And you
Mm-hmm.
know how that goes. Some people are receptive to it, and others, they just want you to get out of there.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Did that work at
tons of
all?
email.
Did you get any clients from doing that? Just walking in places and introducing yourself?
Uh, I did not get any clients from the cold calling, but I definitely got some clients from the emailing stuff I did, reaching out to realtors
Okay.
that way. So that
Okay.
seemed to be more effective as a way
What
to
would
like contact them, and because then they could
Yeah,
see the services and everything possible that way.
sure. When you were doing the kind of the cold email outreach, what was your approach there? Where were you finding people to email and what were you saying to them?
Let's see. I was saying basically, well, how I would find them, I would look up try to find a hub for realtors.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I'd look up Howard Hanna, and I'd look up, oh, actually, and I would do that, and I would try to find like a list of their realtors and their contact info. But I'd also just go on Zillow
Yeah.
or on any site that's selling houses and get contact info from there.
Yeah.
And I was kind of trying to stay in, the more expensive range, like 500K or above, because I know that means they have a bigger budget, and they could probably
Sure.
afford, drone service and video editing, that kind of deal. So that was pretty much just emailing like constantly, pretty much for like the first month. And I probably
Yeah.
sent out, I don't know, 300, 400 emails to different realtors. I don't know. It was a lot.
Were you like, hey, here's what I can do if you want to ever link up or hire me?
Yeah. So I did a couple. So what I did, I went to some relatives' houses, my parents' house, and I essentially did everything that I would do for a realtor. I
Nice.
put
Yep.
together photos, I put together the entire package, I made the video,
Sweet.
edited it, color graded it, all of that stuff. And then I used that as a portfolio link in the emails that I was sending to the
Yep.
realtor so they had something to see.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, when you do that, when you have an example of the work you can do, you definitely get responses.
Yeah. Nice. That's very smart. Very smart. And it's something we've encouraged people to do before is like you got to have something to show because their first question in their mind is if you get contact is, well, first off, who is this person and are they any good at what they're saying they can do? And so instant
Right.
instant proof right there, which is nice.
Right. I
All right.
uh, I also did utilized droners.io
Mm-hmm.
and Dronebase as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a few jobs from that in the
Okay.
beginning. But those are relatively hit or miss. It depends how much.
Yeah.
I think it honestly depends on the location that you're in, whether or not those are going to be enough to kind of support yourself.
I would say pretty universally, I've heard that it's not really. It's kind of it's good supplement or it's a good way to like get paid to get some portfolio jobs, but I haven't really heard of anybody who's making a living off of it necessarily. Now I have heard of people say maybe, with droners, maybe they meet a client and then they do kind of recurring work for them, like off the platform later or something like that on an ongoing basis. So, um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I've heard it's a good way to kind of get your feet wet and meet some people and get some practice in too. So, um,
definitely.
awesome. So you started doing real estate stuff. Got a couple hits with some realtors. Did you remember when you got your first paying job?
Yeah, actually, I do. It was a realtor. She was about an hour away from me. and I had no idea what to price, how to do pricing, things like that, so I was
Uh-huh.
definitely learning as I go. I was just kind of faking it till you make it, that kind of deal.
Uh-huh.
I knew it was a good plan, and I just told myself I was just going to see it through and just keep
Yeah.
going. So I didn't charge very much. I think actually I have it up right here, $275 to the first
Okay.
realtor.
And what
So
and what were you
uh,
doing for
and
him to do it?
that was 2 hours probably on site, and then probably another 3 or 4 hours of editing. So that was
Okay.
like almost a full day.
Yeah.
And now I don't know. Now I'm around 1,500 or 2K for a full day of work now.
Oh,
So
wow. Awesome.
so it's quite the jump. But like I
And
said,
that's
I
just a
was
year of
new.
and that's just a year of work. That I mean, like, that you've come that far in just about a year's time. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, and that's a whole nother thing, like the pricing and stuff that I'm sure we can get into.
Yeah, people love to ask about pricing, so I'm sure we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
All right, so what was the job where you said you were was it just video, or are you doing pictures for them too, or what?
Pictures and video, just a house she
Okay.
was selling. It was near the lake, so it was nice. I think it put together. I think she just wanted outdoor photos, and it was just around the house at different heights. I think we did 100 feet and 200 feet. We
Okay.
couldn't really go lower than that because there was a lot of trees around. But
Mhm.
I think it was a total of 15 photos, and then I put together about a 2-minute video. And I mean, I still have the video on my YouTube, and it looks great. Like I'm still proud of that work. It was good.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, were you pursuing more real estate after that, or kind of walk us through where it went from there? Because we're moving somehow into FPV stuff, so I'm interested in how we get there. So, what's next after? Are you doing more real estate jobs after this, or what happened after that gig?
Uh, I did a total of 2 real estate jobs. I ultimately decided that the amount of work I was getting based on the amount of time I was putting into reaching out to the realtors was
Hmm.
not very efficient. So I kind of started to look for other ideas. I had a couple droners jobs then, and then so I was kind of like searching, for a way to going into different markets. Okay, so I started
Hmm.
contacting construction companies for like mapping jobs and things like that. I
Hmm.
started contacting marketing companies, even tourism agencies out of Cleveland and things like that. Offering them pictures. From the very beginning, I was utilizing Instagram a
Hmm.
lot. I would basically take photos and I would edit them and make them look really nice to try to reach clients that way to get attention on Instagram and things like that.
Hmm.
So essentially, I started to recognize that I had to adjust my strategy after about a month of the realtor thing.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I don't remember what video it was. I saw something FPV. I think it was a Johnny FPV video, and he's like one of the top FPV pilots in the world. And I saw that, and I just like I don't know, it was just like an epiphany. It like immediately just made me change gears because I've always been very good with. I've always had very good reaction time, and I've been good with my hands and things like that. And I was like, I know I can do this, and I think this is probably going to be pretty marketable as well as
Hmm.
the other stuff I'm going to. So I think I'm going to like kind of just divert my attention to this, and I just kind of stopped and started studying FPV stuff for the next. I think it was like probably 3 months of just
Wow.
nonstop learning how to build, learning because I was immediately intrigued by it, like the fact
Hmm.
that you can strap a camera, any type of camera you want, from a GoPro all the way to like a Komodo to an FPV drone, which is amazing.
Hmm.
And you can set it doing flips and all kinds of stuff. So, and flying inside was like a huge thing for me. I didn't even know that. And then shortly after that, of course, the bowling alley video that everybody knows about came out, and he was flying through the bowling alley, and everybody lost their mind over that. So that was just like more reinforcement. Like I need to, figure out how to do that because that's really marketable for me.
If somebody
Um,
hasn't seen the bowling alley video, you want to describe it, and we'll try to link it up too.
yeah. So basically, the bowling alley video is it was shot by a guy named well, he goes by Jaybird Films on Instagram, and it's Jay Christensen. And basically, what he did was he started the shot opens with the drone flying along the street, and then it zooms in. Drone flies through the front door of the bowling alley after someone opened it for the drone, and then the drone proceeds to go through the bowling alley, all around, even behind the area where the pins sit. He was flying
Hmm.
all these little tiny places, which is really cool and dynamic. And basically, it was like a entire tour of the whole place. And they added sound design, they added sound cues and music and things like that to make it feel lively. And
Hmm.
then I think it was about a minute long. So basically toured the whole bowling alley in about a minute, and it was super cool and super engaging.
I remember watching
So
it thinking like, I don't know how in the world a drone is fitting into these places. I don't know if
like
it's just like more zoomed than it may appear, but I'm just like, how is this possible that this drone is like squeezing through some of these spots?
trying to find the trickery in it, like, is that
Yeah,
real, or did they
right.
fake that? What is
Yes,
that?
it definitely has that, like, you're just, like, watching it, like, and a lot of these FPV videos, like, how's that possible? Like, there's another one I saw where someone's walking along. This is not the bowling one, but somebody's walking along with, like, a cart, and there's, like, a pipe on it, and the
Uh-huh.
drone just goes, like, right through this pipe, and I'm just like, the pipe looks so small in the video, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
how in the world did this drone fit through there? But, yeah, it's pretty wild, a lot of these videos, which I think is part of the draw to it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It just grabs attention, and
Yeah,
it's definitely
yes.
a kind of a trend right now. Um, yeah, so I saw that, and just start. I was doing, like I said, about 3 months of just nonstop learning, learning how to
Mhm.
build them, learning how to fly. Basically, I started flying these. I started in a simulator, which you can, there's a 4 or 5 different simulators that you can download.
Is there one that you
Onto
recommend that you've used?
Yeah, I think personally, I really enjoy Liftoff Simulator, uh,
Okay.
and you can get that on Steam on the PC. And basically, what you do is you have to buy a controller that would fly FPV, and you plug that into your computer
Mhm.
via USB, and then you can fly. And it's very, very close to flying the real thing. It's maybe
Like, the
like
physics are good?
the physics are good, yeah, and it definitely gets you started to the point where, like, if you were to buy an FPV drone and just try to fly it without the simulator, I think you would end up probably destroying some drones. Like,
Mm.
even me when I first started, after a couple months in the simulator, like nonstop, couple months in the simulator, I even crashed the real drone. The first one I had, I crashed a bunch, because it's all
Now when you
manual.
Yeah, now when you're crashing these when you crash the drones, and I'm not saying you're crashing them now, maybe you crash one every once in a while, but, are they to where, because like, say you have a Mavic 2 Pro, right? And you crash that, and let's say you break the camera on or something like that. I mean, typically those are more costly to repair than it's worth. You know what I mean? Like on the drone. With FPV, since a lot of it you're building anyways, are the parts a little more interchangeable? Where if you kind of mess something up, you can replace just that piece and fix it yourself, or how does that work when you end up crashing?
Yeah, well, I can put it this way. I did crash the Mavic 2 once, and basically the motor stopped spinning.
Hmm.
So there was an issue with the motor, and I had the DJI Care refresh,
Oh, good.
and I had to send it into them. It ended up costing me like $250.
Hmm.
Whereas I've crashed the first one I had, I probably crashed 20 times. I've broken an arm on it. It had to replace an arm, and total cost to fix that would be $15.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
an entire arm. The motors cost $20. So you have to have a little bit of know-how.
Hmm.
And by know-how, I really just mean soldering. You just have to know how to solder, and then you can pretty much put it together.
Well,
Like you
you'd
just
have to know like what to buy and where it goes and how it connects and stuff.
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why what you just said there. That's part of the reason why it took me, a few months to figure it out, because
sure.
I mean, they've made some progress in the FPV industries, and they have some bind and fly drones where you can just buy them now and you don't have to build or anything like that, which is great. But, even then, it's still not as user friendly as, just buying a DJI or buying the DJI FPV. You still
Hmm.
have to, know, a little bit of what you're doing. You have to know a little bit about the architecture of the drones and stuff like that. Because like when it comes down to it, if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, you could get someone could get hurt. You're flying like a 5 pound thing through the air and it's metal. And the
Yeah.
Cinelifters, the heavy ones, are 15 pounds. So
Mm.
so you really got to know what you're doing. So it's good. I think I always recommend people to definitely do their research. There's a couple of YouTube channels that I recommend checking out that really helped me get going on it.
Yeah.
And one being Joshua Bardwell's YouTube channel.
Okay.
That is a wealth of information. He's an FPV genius. Like he calls himself the FPV know-it-all, and he really does. He does know everything about it, and it's a really great resource. That's probably my number one go-to if I have, even to this day, if I have any issues, with my drones or my setup or anything like that.
What was his name again? We'll link it
His
up.
name is Joshua Bardwell. Joshua,
Like Bardwell with a D.
yeah, Bardwell.
Cool.
That
Nice.
would be the guy there.
Nice. So you're flying. So let's go back to kind of your story a little bit. So you study up. You're like, real estate for you, too much squeeze for the juice. You're in it, like, it's maybe not worth pursuing. In your situation, so you're like, I'm gonna try to take a more unique approach. Got to get the FPV. You just start practicing. Now, while you're doing all this, are you still doing like a sales job, or are you just like coasting on some savings, or what was your kind of situation
No,
like at this time?
honestly, I was just coasting on savings at the point
Really?
because I was not working very much because of the COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting a little bit because of COVID, but coasting off savings, and that was kind of like my decision there to find something new because I had some time, and because I knew that it would get back to normal at some point, and they were going to need salespeople and stuff. So I just kind of it was kind of like
Like,
crunch time. Like I needed to figure something out, or I was going to go back to what I was doing, and
yeah,
I kind of wanted to do something new. So
yeah. Now, did that make you? I'm just diving a little bit of entrepreneurship psychology here, because a lot of people, they're pretty fearful of leaving a job or something like that, or it's like, oh, this is kind of my security blanket. I mean, even when I was left my job to do drone launch, right, I did it on the side for a while, got it going, and then I left to do it full time. It was stressful at first because it's a little, margins are a little thinner for
yeah.
you. When you're coasting on savings, you're learning how this stuff, was that like a stressful time at all, being like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna work, and how long is this savings gonna last? Or were you pretty confident, like, no, I'll figure it out?
There was a little bit of talk in the back of my mind about it. I've always been a risk taker,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also like a very big advocate for having a positive mental attitude
Mm-hmm.
and just knowing what you want to do, laying out the proper steps and the goals, and then the micro goals involved in the bigger goals to kind of get you to where you want to be. So I knew that my method was good, and I knew that mentally that I would be okay for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the financial stuff, I was just confident that it was going to work out. And I still, to this day, I'm still applying a lot of that stuff. Because I mean, my goal is to get to, I don't know, six figures at least this year.
Mm-hmm.
So and you can't really do that if you're not putting in the hours, if you're not every day working on your business in some way, shape, or form, whether it's networking with clients. Like you have to put the time in. Like it doesn't, like I said, the positive mental attitude thing, that's a piece of the equation,
Right.
but you can't just have that, because that's not going to get you
Wait a
that's
minute. I
just
can't think my way to success, Eric. Are you sure?
no. I mean, and that's kind of like, that's why these success coaches and stuff sometimes get a bad rap, but
Yeah.
they need to say that they're only giving you maybe like 20%, 33%, let's say, of the equation. It's a part
Yeah.
of it.
But I will say, just from starting a business and having other little side hustles before, it is really hard to have the gumption and motivation to take action if you don't have the positive mental attitude to begin with. Like if you're coming at it from like this isn't going to work. What
Oh
am I
yeah.
doing? Blah, blah, blah. If you get in that, if you get wrapped up in that mode, it just like kills your motivation and you're not going to do anything. So you almost have to be, I don't know, I tell this to my wife, you almost have to be like delusionally optimistic about what you're doing to like get yourself fired up enough to go out and act like it's 100% going to work, even if there's, risk involved in it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's I completely agree with that. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's kind of the fake it till you make it thing. I mean, that's like, I know I've said that before, but it's just have a plan and kind of follow through with it, and
Yeah.
stay on track as much as you can.
Yeah. And I loved your comment about when you said the micro goals too. I think that's really good because, I mean, even that's something I struggle with, right? You're like, oh, cool. Here's what we're going to do. You set some goals, you set some plans, but you got to break it down into like, what am I doing this afternoon that is going to get me to what I need to do this week, this month to help me figure out, what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah, precisely. Just the little things. You have your big goal and you break it down into something that's more manageable on a daily basis. But everything that you're doing on a daily basis is with that larger goal in mind or leading you to that exactly. So
Yeah.
that's 100% an effective way to because a lot of people, they set the goals but they don't really design a way to get to them, or the goal
Hmm.
is so long term that it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So I think that's a
Yeah.
good thing to implement.
Yeah. Can you give any type of, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, but can you give any type of specific examples of like, hey, you've got your long-term goal. Like, what are you doing right now, kind of like on a day-to-day basis that's kind of part of your plan to get you to your goals? Like, what does your day look like?
Well, contacting a lot of different companies in all different locations. So one of my goals is to work with larger, globally recognized companies and things like that. So basically, my plan to get to that point is to so I've had great success on the local level.
Hmm.
So I'm working into the next level, which is regional, national stuff. So
Hmm.
doing some traveling, things like that. So for the past, like, I don't know, month or two, I've been contacting companies, media houses, media production agencies, all different types of stuff across the country. Offering services, just chatting with them. Just reaching out and getting acquainted, things like that. Because I don't have any prior connections. I don't have any ins in the film
Hmm.
industry or anything like
Hmm.
that. So basically, I'm reaching out to companies on the national level, and basically that is kind of the next step to get me into globally recognized companies like Red Bull and
Yep.
National Geographic and Discover. I have a whole list of them on my computer. I have to pull it up, like uh, of the companies that. So it's good to be specific in your goals and stuff too. So I know
Yeah.
exactly which companies that I want to work with, and any kind of ins I can get along the way is definitely a positive, um,
Yeah.
you know, approach.
I love that being really specific. Like you had a list, right? I want Red Bull, National Geographic, this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
There's
think that's
probably like
great.
20 of them on there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
so I'm in the in between spot right now. I had, like I said, I had success locally working on national. I just was in LA shooting a music video.
Oh,
I'm
that's cool.
going to Vegas in May. I got Georgia in March. So it's working.
Yeah. You're branching
Um,
out.
I'm getting out of Cleveland a little bit, getting away from the snow, which is great. Uh, yeah, so the plan is working in that regard for that particular kind of goal.
That's great. Now, I want to rewind. I feel like we jumped forward a little bit too because I got excited about talking about goal setting and all that
Hmm.
stuff. So you were learning FPV stuff. You did simulator time, a lot of simulator time. You started flying. You crashed a little bit. I want to hear about how you went from. Sounds like you were building up skills to feel confident about what you're doing. Did you
Yeah.
take the same approach where you're like, I'm gonna you know, film some. I guess you said you filmed around town and stuff to get some footage together. I'm trying to remember if that was for the real estate stuff or was that for the
With the
FPV
Mavic.
stuff?
Yeah, yeah. No, that was for the initially what I did, like putting
Yeah,
together a film reel. Yeah.
right, right. But when you're getting into the FPV stuff and trying to dive into that world, how did you kind of break in there? What was your first gig in the FPV world?
So I needed something to be able to show people. And I was basically, and I didn't even really try to like pitch the idea because I couldn't like explain it, like just in text, like it's something that has to be seen. So basically I went to a local restaurant in my hometown and I talked to them in person. I got a hold of the right contact to talk to at the restaurant who manages the restaurant, and it's a nice, it's 2 floors, it's a nice place, and I was like, hey, I need something for my portfolio because this is what I'm doing, and I offered it to him for free. And that was some advice I got from the aerial video A to Z course.
Mm-hmm.
Do a couple things for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best thing, but you will get your portfolio. You get some content for your portfolio. You'll network with some people, things like that. So I did that restaurant video for free. It took me about an hour on site, and that I probably would have did another take, I think, but they only had from 9 to 10 a.m. So I was basically,
Mm-hmm.
you have to fly through this do a full tour in an hour, and I did 3 takes, and the third take was the best one. And then I took it home, I edited it all up. I spent, I don't know, maybe 8 or so hours editing it, and I
Oh,
put
wow.
sound effects in it and everything. And then I released it, and and it was just like a gift for them. They were appreciative that they didn't have any creative direction in it because it was free. So I basically was able to do whatever I wanted with it,
Mm.
and they loved it. And basically, that video got like, I don't know, 20,000 views in like 2
Whoa.
days on Facebook.
Wow.
And for me, that was like a sign because I'm used to posting videos and getting like 50 views, like
Mm-hmm.
of me, of just, that's kind of been, I'm not like a super popular person. Okay. So when I see like 17,000 views or 20,000 views in 2 days, I'm like,
Like
okay,
something's working.
there has to be something to this. Okay. So, and then I started to get some more local jobs because that local reach. So basically, I started in my hometown, and that branched out to nearby cities, and then it finally got to like Cleveland and stuff like that. And then I was getting calls from them. So it's like um, that first video really started to just give me some organic work, some
Mm-hmm.
people just kind of contacting me at that point. And I still hadn't had pricing figured out because I just did something for free.
Yeah.
So I was still like undercharging by a lot at this
Sure,
point,
sure.
for something
Which
that
is
took me.
understandable when you're first starting out, like you're still feeling out how people will respond when you hit them with a price and, like it's some testing.
Yes, and I would beat myself up about that. I would be like, "Wow, I really just kind of." I was nervous about it, so I was like, "I should have charged more. I should have charged more." That kind of deal, and then it ended up being okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that's kind of how that started, like that first month, and that was June of last year, actually. It
Wow.
was June
So
2nd.
that, wow. Yeah, not that long ago. And then, so you did this free restaurant job. And then, so your first paying job, did somebody just find it and want to hire you for something? Or were you still doing outreach at that point? How did that next thing come about?
So it was, yeah, they saw that video on Facebook and they were just like, we want that for our place. It was a preschool in the area. They just needed they were having trouble with their photos because they wasn't showing the depth and the
Hmm.
size of the school itself. So
You're like, I got an
uh,
answer for you.
definitely had a solution. It
Yeah.
was a perfect solution. So they contacted me, and then shortly after that, a winery contacted me, and then the local library, and then
The library?
a library. Yeah, so it's so funny, like the types of
Make
stuff
sure
that you
we
end up
make sure
doing.
we do this during library hours. I want to see people in here trying to
Yes,
study. Drones coming by
right.
the
So
way.
yeah, and the funny part is you could do it during library hours because it's safe, and if the pilot is skilled enough, like the more people, the merrier. Like in the beginning, I was like kind of nervous. I was thinking like maybe it's better if it's empty, but now I'm
Yeah.
just like have as many people as you want. Let's do it on a Friday night kind of deal. It would be way
Yeah.
cooler because then we can have all kinds of sound cues. That's the way to do it. So,
I'm just thinking libraries in general. I just feel like it's a great combo.
yeah, so they wanted a before and after because they were getting ready to renovate and add an
Okay,
extension onto the library. So we did the
cool.
before video, and then I'm going to be going back in probably April of this year to do the after video.
That's cool. Is this like a
Yeah.
public library? Is like the city hiring you to do this, or?
Yeah, actually. So the same kind of thing where how Alex was talking about. You do your town reel, and then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of get linked in with people in your town, and then that's kind of the same thing. Instead of a reel, I did that one fly through job
Right.
for
Yep.
free, and then and then the city contacted me. The city actually ended up buying some footage from me. Um, and the library, the preschool, things like that. And then shortly thereafter, it started to get more reach. It started to expand farther out um, into neighboring counties and cities and things like that.
Yeah. So from your business, how much would you say, at least, in the last, whatever, 8 months or so when you've been doing paid FPV jobs, how much has come from like people just seeing your stuff, finding out about you, they're contacting you, like inbound stuff, versus you're doing active outreach and trying to actively get business?
I'd say it's about 60% is organic reach, people coming to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the beginning, it was completely the opposite.
Sure.
Now it's about 60% of the time they're coming to me, and 40%, I'm reaching out to them. Everything that I'm doing that involves traveling, that's all me, reaching out to them,
Sure.
like I was talking
Yeah.
about before,
Right. Right.
because I don't have like national reach or recognition. So
Yeah.
my local stuff that I did, it got me going. It got me enough to, keep money coming in naturally. So yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
about 60/40.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like there's so much we could talk about too. I don't want to go too long, but I do want to talk
There
about.
is.
You mentioned pricing. Everybody loves to talk about pricing, wants to know about pricing, and so you mentioned now. You said at the beginning you charge like whatever $275. Now you're charging. You said like 1,500 or $2,000 for a day. Like, what is a typical? Somebody calls you for a job. They're like, "Hey, I want you to fly through my restaurant or concert or whatever." I'm sure it might vary, but like, what is your kind of response in terms to pricing now?
So generally, if the client is reaching out to you, that means that they like what you do. They saw your work somewhere, and you're definitely in a better position to kind of uh, negotiate and figure
Mm-hmm.
out pricing, stuff like that. So depending on what your position is, that kind of dictates. Also, you have to look at the type of business it is. For example, I've worked for like the Cavs, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Indians, and media
That's cool.
houses and things like that. Yeah, and when you're working with them, they, price they you can give
They
them
got
pretty much
monster
whatever
budgets.
price, as long as
Yeah.
it's not something completely crazy, and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Um, but if it's a something I did recently for a garage, like a car, like an auto body shop,
Mm-hmm.
like a local auto body shop, like you kind of have to judge the business you're talking to. But typically now I'm around my day rate for like on-site time is about 1,500 a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the average of where I'm at, and that doesn't include like editing or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that most of the time now I'm being hired as a specialist. Like basically, the company or the organization will hire me, and all I'm doing is shooting. I'm just getting the footage. I'm getting like the most amazing content that it can get, and then I send it off to them, and they do the editing and stuff like that,
Okay.
which is great. I don't mind doing it either way.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of my work now still a lot of the local indoor fly throughs and stuff like that. Like I will edit, and basically for those it's about in the 2K range, like
Okay.
because they're local businesses, and they're not like national big time corporations or anything like
Right.
that. So, and for that I'm spending about 1 or 2 hours on site. Maybe I'll go out and do an hour of scouting, if needed, if they don't have any
Hmm.
pictures or anything like that. And then, a few hours of editing. Um, and that enables me to, keep it around, no more than 2K
Hmm.
for a full video with music and stuff like that. And one thing I will say about the one shot videos where it's one take going through a
Mm,
location, they're
yeah.
relatively easy. They're pretty quick to edit because you don't have to do cuts.
Right. There's not much
You
to edit
don't
other than your coloring and other, sound design stuff.
exactly. So it's like it's pretty. So the my if you break down like my hourly rate, it's pretty good. Um,
I would say very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the editing is pretty straightforward with the one shots. I think the sound design of it is probably the most time consuming part because you have to find uh, suitable sounds, and I have
Yeah.
a website that I use for that, soundsnap.com for sound
Okay.
effects.
Real quick, describe if someone doesn't know what sound design is. Give us the one sentence or 1 minute version of sound. What is sound design in a video?
Yeah, so sound design basically is when the drone passes something that has a good sound cue, like a tap on the bar or something like that. You would have someone's pouring the tap. You would add in the sound effect of the beer filling up the cup as the
Right.
person in the video is filling it up. So it creates a lively, a more lively video kind of deal.
Right. Right. Because like you're not really recording, or I guess I don't know. Do you have go? What are you typically shooting with camera wise on those FPV drones?
Uh, Most of the time, I'm shooting with a GoPro, especially for the indoor stuff, because
Mm,
it needs to be small. It needs to fly through small spaces.
hmm.
So it is kind of tricky getting GoPro footage to look right, color grading
Yeah.
wise. But
Uh-huh.
um, so, but the only thing you hear on the GoPro is just prop noise
Yeah. Sure.
in
Sure.
the video. So you just remove that and you just
Right.
edit your own sounds. Yeah.
So when you're watching it back from your sound design work, it looks like it's quiet. Or like, let's say you're flying it along like really close to the water on a stream, you might put in like babbling brook sounds or whatever. So it seems like what you would hear if you were there live, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
So that's basically the bulk of your editing work. I guess maybe it's motivating too to get better at flying, so you can do one take, so that you don't have to edit as much on the back end.
Exactly. Yeah. That definitely does help. 100% definitely helps. The stabilization software that you use with GoPro works really well. So it kind of you can make some mistakes, but it's really like you can tell if someone's not if they're new or something, and it's
Yeah,
bobbling and things like that. You can definitely tell.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. What software do you typically edit in? Are you like editing everything in Premiere, or do you have a different software plugins and stuff that you commonly use?
So yeah, I just use Premiere. That's just kind of what I learned on, and yeah, following what I learned in the courses from Drone Launch and whatnot, it was a big help.
So you're not using any other like other stabilization software, like you're just using whatever is like the onboard for
Uh,
the GoPro stabilization.
so there is a stabilization software that you use. It's called Real Steady Go. And
Yeah.
what Real Steady does, it logs the gyro data. It takes the gyro data from the GoPro footage, and it
Mm,
enables you to go in and kind of stabilize it yourself. You can kind of choose how stable you want it and how much
mm,
crop you want. Because in order to stabilize something, you have to crop in and crop some,
right.
so it could stabilize. And it gives you a little bit more control, and it's really easy and user friendly to do.
Is that a completely separate software from Premiere, or does it go into Premiere like a plugin type of deal?
It's actually completely separate software, and it's $100
Oh,
to yeah, and then you have lifetime usage of it. It's
wow.
definitely worth it because that is much better than using the GoPro's in-camera stabilization.
Gotcha. Yeah. So your kind of workflow is you'll record your FPV stuff with the GoPro, you'll then run it through your stabilization software, and then you
Yep,
edit in Premiere
yep,
with your smooth footage.
yep, exactly. Or I just send that stabilized footage off to their editing team or whoever I'm
You,
working with
sure,
if
sure.
I'm not editing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Man, I'm digging all this FPV talk, but I need to wrap it up. This is going to be one of my longest episodes ever, so I'm like, all right, I got to ask one more question, and then we got to go.
Great.
But
If I
no,
could say one more thing really
yeah,
quick.
please. I was gonna say, yeah,
uh,
yeah. If I was gonna say, if you have any other pieces of advice or anything else you want to talk about, let's go for
I
it.
would say, yeah, I would say that the social media thing, basically, my strategy was just to do as much attractive content as possible, and utilize social media in the best way that I could. And it turns out Instagram is responsible for about like 75%, of my work. Like most of the time, people reach out to me on Instagram,
Awesome.
which is surprising. And
Yeah.
the Facebook groups as well, sharing around Facebook was a really big help for me too. So definitely don't underestimate the power of that when it comes
Yeah.
to marketing your stuff.
Yeah. No, I love that. Um, and again, you have to actually post something for people to see it. So I know sometimes people get too picky about like, oh, it's just not good enough or this or that. I always
Yeah,
tell people you can take stuff down later, but don't just never post anything because you always are critiquing yourself too hard. So
right,
yeah.
absolutely.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you've utilized it and gotten to where you are. So if someone wants to find out more about you, obviously we'll link up, your Instagram and your website and stuff. But if someone's just listening, where would be the best place to either find out more about you or see your stuff or get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would go to vividflightmedia.com,
Okay,
and that's my business entity, and that's what that's where you can find my contact info and some of my work and things like that.
sweet. And then you said you were on Instagram. Is it Vivid Flight Media on Instagram as well?
It's actually just Hellinger underscore FPV
Oh, okay. All right.
on Instagram. So I kind of do like I said, like because a lot of my work is kind of freelance in a way. So
Uh-huh.
because they just hire me as a specialist, so I also do that route as well. So I actually don't have a business thing for Instagram. I just kind of use my personal.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we'll link those up. But if you're just listening, those are the places where you can reach out to Eric. So, Eric, thanks you so much for coming on, telling us all your awesome FPV journeys and walking us through it. And I appreciate all your insights and hope everybody that was listening enjoyed.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a good time chatting with you.
All right, we'll catch you again, Eric, and maybe have you on again in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
All right, what a great conversation with Eric. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that has inspired your inner FPV drone pilot to maybe go out and try something new or improve your FPV skills. It's definitely a really cool section of the drone market that can be explored and capitalized on. Just a couple reminders before we go. Be sure to check out Drone Launch Connect if you want a community of encouraging drone pilots to help you along your journey. We're not going to allow any negative Nancy's in there. If someone's in there talking trash, being mean, being anything other than encouraging, we're going to kick you out because we don't need your $19 a month if you're going to be a bully to other people or you're just not really going to be that helpful or encouraging. We want it to be a really helpful place. Everybody's building each other up, helping each other hit our goals, learn stuff, not feel stupid for asking stupid questions, especially if you're a newbie and you're like, what is mapping, right? We don't want people like, haha, I can't believe you don't know what that is, or what is this drone, or I don't know what drone to buy. Like all these things that to some people are really simple and easy questions. We want them to feel like they can ask that stuff because the only way they're going to get better and grow is if they have a place where they feel comfortable doing that. So we want that to be the environment and have experts to connect with other experts too. If you're like more experienced and you want to hire drone pilots, we got a spot in there where you can link up with other members in different areas. If you have jobs there and you need to get a drone pilot, that can happen in that space too. So check that out. Remember the 2 truths and a lie game I mentioned. And if you want a free t-shirt, leave us a review. But otherwise, very excited to catch you next time. Adios.